Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here. Excuse me for a second. System Chalk here with the 45th episode of Book of Hours, our first YouTube series. I hope you all had a lovely weekend, and I'm going to need some time to get reacquainted with the session, but overall, it looks like there's a lot to do, and I hope we can get through all of it. So we've got an offer from Oriflamme's, but okay, so I actually do remember this. We didn't have enough money. Looks like I also locked in some harvesting. So it makes me wonder why I'm not doing more with Rites of the Roots or Transformations and Liberations. Well, we've got a book being read, so we've got the Bancroft Diaries, so this would give me a forge, so that would be for Transformations and Liberations. We have two memories that we need for that, so the next question would be Lady Ava's Repose. Now, unfortunately, I don't remember what shelf that was on, but it would seem to me like we've already got... I would have to guess here that it is producing either a forge or moth. Okay, so I've clearly got a couple of books on the go. So I suppose the question here would be, what am I trying to do here with Rites of the Roots, given that... Okay, actually no, this makes sense as well. So I've got the Shapt, which I would use to level up Transformations and Liberations. So in principle, I would be using Trist to level up Rites of the Roots, assuming that I had the... excuse me. Assuming that I had the relevant... Also, I'm wondering where my Arab is. Well, that must be going into... Right, into reading. Okay. So yeah, the one thing I'm a little unclear on with this, and again, I'm sure I covered this in the video before, is where the Rites of the Roots lessons are supposed to be coming from. I think I'm okay with not talking with Mrs. Kill, although that might have been a wiser choice given that I've got the two, like the Faust and the Whisk kicking around. Oh, looks like there's another... Okay, so Wrapped in the King we know will give the... we know that's going to give the Nectar and Scale. Now it also sounds like it was raining, so although we probably aren't close enough into the day to carry that through. Oh yes, and we've got Impulse, which we would use for Rites of the Roots. Okay, no, I've got a very clear idea of where this is all going now. So let's let the day sort of roll through. We can follow up on a few other choices in a little bit. Alright, I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. Now, one of the challenges that I run into, I don't think this would be true of any of the books that I'm reading, but I am mildly concerned that one of them may be producing an impulse already. I don't think I would sabotage myself like that, but it seems to me like I can already upgrade Rites of the Roots without worrying about anything else. So let's just get that off my to-do list. Alright, there's always more to learn. And this will eventually become level 3, but I guess we've already got that in the level 3 position because Transformations and Liberations will be going up one as well. I suppose the other question that I'll ask myself is, does it make sense for me to renew, you know, either a health or a tryst at the Sweet Bones just so that I can level up Rites of the Roots, or does it make more sense for me to just, you know, use the Faust and the Whist for something else? Although there is actually one other thing that I'm going to be doing. I probably could have been doing this a lot earlier, but the metal's already fatigued, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to renew it at the Sweet Bones, Rest and Refreshment in the summer. It is summer, and I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. So I tend not to do this very often, and I think it's just because this is a little bit like going to Oriflamme's in cultist simulator. So a lot of people complain about Oriflammes being a bit of a drag in terms of just you always have to put your cards into the work slot, and I believe there are actually a couple of mods that change that. And this is just one of these things. Again, everybody loves to quote Alexis Kennedy, the designer of both Cultist Simulator and this game, saying that he wanted to do an art. And of course, this is why it is. And I like that feature of Cultist Simulator. There are many things about Cultist Simulator that I really appreciate. But the big thing is that it's more of a drag in Cultist Simulator because you know that you die if you don't have enough money to pay the rent. There's really nothing in Book of Hours that makes you have to go do some work in the Sweet Bones. St. Ronwin's will give you £1 every year. So the worst that you do is you just wait until you're able to hire people again. And let's face it doesn't cost a whole lot to hire folks in this game. So one of the things that I can do, and I don't do very often, we've got a full day ahead of us, and that metal, the way I normally play, usually just kind of sits there and doesn't do anything. And one of the things I can do, basically every 2 minutes, I can renew and then use an element of the soul to make some cash. Now, I'm not really invested in terms of maximizing everything out of a day. Like, one thing I could do, of course, is just commit so many more of these things to the Tree of Wisdoms and make it all, just make it all go, even just have more elements of the soul to do things with. That's an option that I have, but maybe I don't necessarily want to follow on. But essentially what I kind of want to do here is, when I remember, it's kind of nice to go to the Sweet Bones and just make a little bit of extra money because it kind of preserves the option when I do want to hire someone. Although, again, we're doing very well as far as finances are concerned. But one of the reasons I don't do it regularly, and again, this is just one of these cases where if somebody's really, invested in quote-unquote optimal play of the game, this is where folks get frustrated. I just don't really see it as worth it. Like, in the end, it's sort of, if you sit down, it's not my place to tell people what the right way to play a game is, but it would seem to me that if you are sitting down and you are playing a game about not just restoring, an ancient library and discovering all of the things inside of it, but more importantly, as part of as part of that restoration, you are actually running into all sorts of interesting things that you can study and that you can investigate and interact with and work with. And if your main choice is to go and, spend that time in the Sweet Bones making money, this just, to me, suggests a very distorted set of priorities. And again, like I said, I mean, if it makes you happy to go and work at the Sweet Bones, or if you want to maximize the amount of money, more power to you. Like I said, it's not my job to tell people what the best way to play the game is. But ultimately, there are ways of playing this that will make it less interesting. So with that in mind, right, it's just one of these things where I say every once in a while I'll remember to go to the Sweet Bones and earn a little bit of money off of that. And sometimes maybe I'll go and I'll try and eke out a little bit more to do over the course of the day. But for the most part, I just I stay content with the actions that I can perform in a day, because I know that not a lot of what I need to do is really time sensitive right now, and sometimes just going on the journey is the main point. All right, I think I did say this was going to be the treat for waiting the weekend. So, the Bancroft Diaries. Lord Franklin Bancroft was initiated into the arts of the flower maker by the Rose Witch Fiona Ayrshire. He rose to become a society provider of occult services and secret pleasures before his abrupt disappearance in 1790. Bancroft seems to have been a talented adept, but devoted his energies to frustratingly whimsical projects, arranging grape-fetching races between Mansa spirits, teaching percussagants how to juggle, and conjuring storms of imaginary blossoms for the Rose Witch Ayrshire, who resolutely refused ever to couple with him. Bancroft spends 20 pages bemoaning this last. The mantra here recorded is a high and exacting magic which can be used to pledge one's spirit to the watchman, beginning an ascent to the house. Bancroft boasts of his ability to recite it when in his cups. He also had it set to music for a performance with fireworks in Vauxhall Gardens. All right, so there's the foresight that we were going to get. Now, I am kind of curious what some of these other texts have. This is always a good chance for memory. So, Lady Ava's Repose, a meditation on the drowning of Lady Ava de Wolf and her 2 grandchildren, written in the years when the estate was abandoned by Father Theo, once the de Wolf family chaplain, one of the few to remain on the Isle in those desolate years. There are so many stories of her heritage, so many rumors of her persistence, we might easily choose to believe that the grand twins escaped, even that they yet live beyond the sea. Father Theo has come to believe that Ava sought an escape from family curse, the pale heritage of Haffren, her forebear, or the curse placed upon the line by the cunning man, Red William, in the time of Hendrik de Wolf. He had begun by believing neither curse was real, but as the book concludes, he decides that he is determined to believe in them. He is determined to believe in them, rather than accept the 3 deaths as a futile tragedy. One does not so easily escape the long necessity of faith, he concludes. So that gives us a regret to work with. So that definitely was for transformations and liberations. What about the remaining texts? Oh, right. So yes, Wrapped in the King is one that we kind of get to keep for a longer period. Wrapped in the King, detailed accounts of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in the necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries of the cults of Isis and of Sybil, and include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with queasily sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. At these greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying. On this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in the carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in the earth. So that gives us the earth sign. I may have a couple of skills that give me other persistent memories. I don't know if these were added or if I just realized them while playing on the other playthrough, but it feels like a couple of other memories have been given persistence that they didn't have before. Incidentally, I also noticed there's now soiled, so Basket of Dirty Laundry I do not believe was here previously. I've not yet figured out how to clean something yet, but we'll figure that out. Okay, so the most obvious step here would be to improve transformations and liberations. So we've got Regret, Foresight, Transformations and Liberations, and Shapt to work with. And one thing I might like to do before I go and commit myself to the Faust and the Whist, although again, it wouldn't be terrible for me to catalog these books, I may want to just take a quick look and see what is currently available in terms of reading. So we've got Glimmerings, which is a 10 forge. And my suspicion here is I put this right at the front because I was going to be able to read it once we leveled up Transformations and Liberations. So let's just take a quick look at what we've got here. This will be level 4. So we've got 4 with the skill, 6 with the 6 with metal, 8 with a memory. So we can actually only get 9 out of that. Ettery After would be 8 winter. So I think the best winter I've got so far is 3. So 3 and 5 and 7. Okay. But we don't have any tools, so that doesn't help us. Okay, I do have Kernvek Hedevek, and that is a scale text, so that's equivalent to an 8. So I've got 3 8s here, which is kind of interesting. Now, with Rites of the Roots, that's not scale, that's moth. So I suspect what I'm going to find here is that I'm short on the scale, otherwise I would have read these. Hill and Hollow is just 2. Yeah. So we could bring that up to 3, 5 with the earth sign, 6 with the timepiece. So essentially what I would want to do to try and read one of the... Well, okay, there's a couple things. So one, I can always try and make an ink. I think probably the ink that would get me enough scale is probably out of my reach. But probably what I would do here is I would first use the earth sign to read the book, and I believe that is much easier at Nona's desk. This, I believe, also gives me an earth sign, so I better find a use for this. I better find a use for this one pretty quick. I don't think what would I do? I mean, I could try and throw something away and hope that I get a result that that provides a moth. I don't really think that's realistic, though. I think I'm probably just going to have to accept that I have a little bit of waste here. Oh, well, the parabate... Oh, interesting. Okay, so if we take the parabate... Well, I don't have the health to kick around. But that would have been interesting. So, like, we could do something like Earth Sign, Hill and Hollow. Oh, there we go. I just learned how to make something. So that gives me 6. Oh yeah, no, we're still at 7. We're at 6. Health would bring us up to 7. So apparently I'm even further behind than what I thought. Because in the end, it just occurred to me that with the... Yeah, with Parabate, that doesn't really change all that much. That just gives me 1 more point, which, in fairness, I was expecting that I was 1 point behind, so that should have made the difference. Anyways, I'm not going to fuss too much about it. Like, it's sometimes a shame to, to lose something like that, but it's, it's a memory, it's an element of the soul. Obviously, with what I'm doing with the Sweet Bones, I can get a replacement if it really comes down to it. But yeah, unless I can find a second memory for the Rites of the Roots, I think... Well, sorry, not just another memory for Rites of the Roots, but I would also need to find an element of the soul to work with it. So I think probably my better bet here would be to decide what I want to do with the Faust and the Whist. I think that will probably be cataloging. And then tomorrow we can dedicate to leveling up Rites of the Roots. One other thing that might be helpful would be if I were to use the Faust or the Whist to generate a memory for tomorrow. I'm not sure if that really gets me anything that I couldn't get already. Agave Eterna is the history plant, unlike its cousin, the century plant. It blooms here every year. Perhaps it will do so forever. Okay. What's going to be my next... You know what? This is a good enough place for more plants. The skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. And in summer, Trumpeter's Lily flourishes like a shout. Okay, so the remaining choices that I sort of have available to me right now, I could use one of the Faust or the Whist to get a memory. I believe I'm in the Motley bed, so I could try and use it to get a memory that I can carry overnight. I currently have the Earth Sign, which I'll be using in Rites of the Wood. So, one thing that I could basically do is prepare the level up for Rites of the Roots. Tomorrow we use the Tryst, and then everything else is free for future use. Another alternative would be I can try and find some use of the Earth Sign before it goes away. In fact, that would not be bad with the Pale Death. So let's actually take a quick... I'm going to do a little bit of window shopping here. So let's say I add the Whist here, and we add the Earth Sign. So is there something that I could get out of this that I would... I'm actually really, in this case, just going to double-click each of these and see what it provides. This is also just a nice little opportunity for me to see the results. So Tanglebrag, I'm not too fussed about. I think we have one of those sitting on the shelf here. It's a clod of wood, leaves, and feathers that might draw the attention of the entity called Knowing Not. So it does have a little bit of scale. It's a material. I'm certainly not going to try and suggest that it's useless, but it's not enough to compel me to give up an element of the soul that otherwise would be cataloging a book. So I'm going to do this one more time at a desk that will accept nectar. Oops. I'm expecting most of these to be kind of a bust because they're not they're not directly scale things. Oh, interesting. So we're still short. I should probably have added the timer here. Okay, Bisclaver is not, again, not super important. I believe we have one of those up here. The question is whether or not I would use it. Honestly, at this point, I should probably just be focusing on scale stuff, but... And, yeah, at this point, even furs and feathers is not going to have enough, so I'm just kind of wasting time. Oh, serpents and venoms, though. Okay, yeah, so I mean, the question here would be, do I find a Bisclaver is not useful enough to skip, skip cataloging? And right now, I think the answer for that is no. Oh, Natan's desk doesn't take nectar. Oh, that's right. There is no direct nectar desk except for Nona's. Okay, so Rites of the Roots is moth, though. Well, it may be moth, but it doesn't take the earth sign. Okay, so I'm back to the old problem. So yeah, I've kind of doubly spoiled my day. Okay, that's fine. So we will one by one catalog these books. Catalog a Solar Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Solar Gothic period, roughly between the 1000s and 1500s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Okay, better now. Fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. So I'm still not quite at the point where I'm gonna catalog books multiple times. I think I did talk about how the new system will cause maladies to afflict other books. So in this case, I don't want to be quite as careless with afflicted elements of the soul, but in this case here, I think it's good to just do things one at a time so I can come up with some expectations. Okay, so the Moon's Egg is a pretty straightforward moon text. The third and last volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. And here we have De Ratio Quircum. The English title translates roughly as The Account of the Oaks, but this is Nathaniel Darcy Evers' fascinating, if haphazard, survey of the occult properties of every tree he can find, not just oaks. In Persia, Taxus baccata, the yew, is called Sorkdar, which is the red tree. There they had long understood the grail root. In later times, the great king of Pontus had beehives set in the branches of the oldest of the female trees. The berries of the Pontine yew open the door to death, but the honey of their flowers opens a different door entirely. This was not the great king's Mithridate, but one who suckled at the great yew fears poison no longer. Perhaps they should. Nathaniel is here distracted, however, by the toxic properties of certain inks. He does mention, more usefully, that the minor ink of power Ugol can be brewed through rites of the roots and the assistance of the aspect nectar. More rites of the roots. All right, well, we've got our work cut out for us, it seems. Okay, I guess it doesn't really matter. All right, I am going to go and consider the solar text. So yeah, I think for the next few days we're going to be focusing pretty hard on Rites of the Roots. Although perhaps I'll take a small detour and handle the Moon's Egg. We've definitely got what it takes to be able to read that. In fact, I could have used the Whist for that, but I don't think it's bad to catalog the last of the books. It certainly helps me plan out the day. So in terms of how I'm going to level this stuff up, we get our impulse from this shelf here. We've got lots of them. By their marks you shall know them, I think is probably a pattern. These would be assault, sorry. This is music. So cheerful ditty and beguiling melody, I believe. Gossip, I think. Conflict or contradiction. Fear. Okay, fear will help. No, fear won't help because that's scale, not nectar. Yeah, I need to work on the moth side of this. And I'm coming up short, to be honest. That may mean... Yeah, I'm probably going to need to think a bit about this. Okay, A Journey to the Grove. Black Ellie, who much later became Damascene matriarch of the Sisterhood of the Knot, recounts her journey to the Grove of Green Immortals. So with Desires and Dissolutions at 6, I think we have an Arab which will take that up to 9, so then we add the scales, and we don't even need to worry about the rest of it. What I think I might do, though, in this case, I might bring in Mrs. Kill for a chat, just so that we can start generating a few more memories. Because I think I'm quickly outpacing my ability to generate generate moth memories. So impulse is nectar and moth. So in one sense, it's almost a double-edged sword. Like it's helpful in one sense, but it kind of covers me twice for the thing that I need. So I would need, I guess there's also the name day riddle if I have a skill that can generate that, but I'm still relatively weak on most of my memory generators, so I may want to be a little more careful in terms of some of the books that I read, just to kind of prepare for disappointments like this. I mean, in one sense, I can always just use this to upgrade something like Leaves and Thorns, but the fact of the matter is, if I can get Rites of the Roots up to level 5, this is a bit like Desires and Dissolutions. The ability to actually be able to do this much with Nectar, let alone Moth, would be very, very helpful in terms of some of the books that I want to be reading, particularly the Solar and the Dawn period books. I think this is the last one we'll be able to earn from the day. So let me take a minute here, because really we're waiting for the day to finish. Let me just double check what I've got for so Perugian Diaries. I'm like near certain is Cheerful Ditties, which would say to me that this is. I've tried to put things that belong together, close. So Perugian Diaries and Winds of Ruin, I would say, are Beguiling Melodies and Cheerful Ditties, neither of which provide Moth. These are the Earth Signs. These are the Salt. In fact, if anything, I'm probably going to want to put these on another shelf at some point. Traveling at Night Volume 1, like all of these are going to be Impulse. I am near certain about that. Now, by their marks ye shall know them, and the Twin Serpent Tantra is an open question, but I'm willing to say here that these are most likely patterns. So patterns, I believe, are combination knock and forge. So we'll leave that aside for now. Contradiction is Edge and Moon. Humors of a Gentleman. So Gossip is a tricky one. I think Gossip is Grail and Rose, or maybe Rose and Grail. Exorcism for Girls produces Fear, which is Scale and Edge. So Book of the Centipede and 108. I know one is Confounding Parable. In that case, that's basically... I like to actually think of Confounding Parable as basically intuition plus sky. So in that case, that's a Moon, Rose, and Sky, whereas this Book of the Centipede, I think, is just Moon and Rose. So again, neither of these are Moth. Keonet Abydos, so that would be Regret, but I believe that would be Scale and Forge. No, sorry, Winter and Forge. Now I need to pause. Okay, cloudy day doesn't help. Oh no, that does give me moth. Okay, that might be a bit of a save. Foresight comes from Bancroft Diaries, which would be... Oh, hang on. Yes, I remember how this works now. So, Foresight, so that is 2 forge... sorry, yeah, 2 forge, 1 lantern. Oblations and iron would be Hindsight, which is 2 winter, 1 scale, if I recall correctly. Fekri's Herbery is Satisfaction, same with Rose of Nuriel and the Berry Book. And that would be helpful if it had nectar, but I don't think it does. I think that is actually a case where it's just... actually, it's Grail and Heart, if I recall correctly. Okay, so yeah, I'm in a bit of a jam here. So the best thing... Okay, so there's 2 things that I can do, which is number 1, I can bring in Mrs. Kill, so she'll be the one to provide me additional memories. The other thing I think is to bring in other books, because books are going to be the only place that I get memories from. So let's take Ava's Desk. We'll take the Journey to the Grove. We'll add the Arab. So we're kind of just jumping in with both feet on this one. This may backfire when it comes time to, like if a Numa comes to hit me, but we'll work with what we've got. So Grail Birth. Moving on, we will take care of the Moon Text. Now I can really use any element of the soul here. I'm actually going to leave aside the Tryst and the Health because we're going to want to level up Rites of the Roots reasonably quickly. So Shop doesn't give me too much right now. Oop. But I may not be able to use that at the relevant desks. Well, Vagabond should help me. No, Vagabond doesn't. Oh, yes it does. Okay, there's Moon of Culmination. So I don't think we can do my... I'll double check here, but... so Etery after, we would add the Whist. And assuming that we didn't have... Yeah, so we're 3 short there. Well, 7... No, we're 1 short there because I can generate 2 winter with a memory. We just used up the Shaft, so even if I could... That was silly of me to do. The Hissing Key would be the one that I could do with Scale, and I'm pretty sure we've already worked this out, but let's actually... Well, you know what? Here. I'll say I'll give it my best shot just for the sake of illustration. So that would be Hill and Hollow. Yep. That would be combined with the Earth Sign. So yeah, that we're bringing in 7 on that. So now is not the time for me to basically be taking a chance on, you know, on the quote unquote random ones. Like I've got plenty that I can do with the day. Ah, Perniculate. Okay. So that was the one that I was forgetting in order to be able to read the higher level scale stuff. Still, got plenty on my plate, so let's work with what we've been given. So, there is a small argument for me to try and preserve elements of the soul today. What's the right way to think about this? So one thing I don't want to do is give up this Earth Sign for no reason. But I also don't want to wait all day for Mrs. Kill to wind up giving me a... Okay. There is one thing I can do to try and push things along. So let's try and find something with Moth. Okay, so Resurgences and Emergences is my best starting point. So there's the Tanglebrag. If I wanted... Well, let's add the Clouds just so I can say I have them. I'm not actually going to use them, but And then I can find my remaining moth. Actually, maybe the Tanglebrag would be... Nope. Okay, you know what? This is going to be something that I will work out for the next video, because I realize I am past the half-hour mark. Time flies when you're having fun. But the essential idea that I'm trying to work with here is that if I can get a name day riddle, that is an extra moth for me to work with. So what I'm trying to do here in terms of the rights of the roots, so there's a limited... I've got limitations in terms of what I can produce. Oh, you know what? I think I might have found another... you know what? I think Savage Hymn doesn't help me, actually. I was just thinking drums and dances with sufficient nectar might have done the trick. So if I go to the drums... Please tell me I unlocked the... Yeah, here we go. So we're going to go for the drums. We had the earth sign as an omen. So I think the Savage Hymn... So I think the problem here is that Savage Hymn is scale and sky, not nectar and sky. Yeah, music is usually my get-out-of-jail-free card. But yeah, so the challenge I'm essentially trying to deal with, and I want to be careful in terms of how I handle this. The clouds are a gift today. So I know that between the earth sign and the impulse, I'm able to level this up to level 3. And with that in mind, I know with the cloud, so if I have nothing else going for me, I can use 1 Rights of the Roots with my standard memories to get that up to level 3. And today only, I can move it from level 2 to level 3 because I have the cloudy day. So we use an impulse, the earth sign, and the cloud. So really I would just have 1 remaining Rights of the Roots sort of looming over me and potentially being wasted. And this is one of these cases where I really do feel like there is I feel like there is another way for me to handle this that I'm sort of sitting on. I'm sure I'll figure it out. I'd prefer it to be on stream, to be honest. But yeah, essentially what I just really need to do is figure out another path to leveling up the relevant aspects. And what I was thinking here is that if I can put together enough on resurgences and emergences, the answer may wind up being that we can get a some kind of confounding parable. But with that in mind, I need to combine matter and substance, which is available to me. But like I said, that's something we want to handle within the confines of a playthrough. So tomorrow is Tuesday, or should be Tuesday. Again, I record all this stuff ahead of time, but tomorrow should be Tuesday, so there will be no broadcast for that day, but I will see you all on Wednesday, or at least those of you who are entertained enough to come along for another one. I hope you have a wonderful time until then, and I will see you there, hopefully. Take care. We'll see you later.